We arrested Casey Stone after she sent 3 Krellians straight to the hospital. You know, at first we were just doing our job, but when we looked at the surveillance footage, damn, those poor guys didn't stand a chance. Listen, I've been working security at the Galactic Military Academy for 6 cycles. 6 full cycles, buddy. That's no joke. During that time, I've seen things that others wouldn't even dream of in their worst nightmares. I've seen Victorian berserkers foaming at the mouth with rage. I've seen Torvin stormtroopers ripping reinforced steel doors off their hinges like they were made of paper. I even witnessed a diplomat from Krillian literally explode from stress during his final exams. But never, and believe me when I say never, I mean it, have I seen anything as strange and disturbing as the person who was brought to the 7th block of the detention center that evening. Her name was Casey Stone, and according to her documents, she was only 22 years old. She had brown hair tied back in one of those human ponytails, although I can't for the life of me understand what horses have to do with women's hairstyles. She was of average height for her species, which meant that the top of her head barely reached my chest plates. She was wearing the Academy's standard jumpsuit, only now it was torn at the shoulder and splattered with blood, which I very much hoped was not hers. 3 of my fellow guards were leading her down the hallway, although leading is too strong a word. Rather, they were awkwardly walking alongside her as she walked with her hands cuffed behind her back and whistling. Can you imagine? She was actually whistling some catchy human tune that echoed off the metal walls and made my antennae twitch with irritation. "Shut your trap," Sergeant Zorn barked. He was a Krillian, and his scales had already taken on that bright purple hue they get when they're on the verge of rabies. He gave her a not-so-gentle push toward the 3rd checkpoint. Casey stopped whistling. She looked at him with her completely calm, almost dead eyes, smiled and said, "As you say, sir. Maybe I should hum under my breath instead?" The sarcasm in her voice was so thick you could wipe it off the floor with a rag. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing, which would have been completely inappropriate in such a situation. Just think, this girl, this tiny human being weighing 60 kilograms, if she gets wet in the rain, somehow managed to knock down 3 Krillian cadets so that they crashed into the medical center. Krellians, you understand? A species that evolved on a planet with extreme gravity, guys with natural armor and combat claws hidden in their paws. Them, of all people, all 3 of them, and she stands here smiling as if she's just been told a good joke about plasma regulators. "Process them!" Zorn barked at me, pushing her forward again. "Full scan, all the paperwork. Command wants to know every detail." I nodded, trying to keep a straight face, which was a hell of a task because this girl winked at me. Winked, as if we were old friends discussing some nonsense, not processing her for grievous bodily harm. "Over here, Cadet Stone," I said, pointing with my 2 front hands to the scanner. "It'll only take a couple of minutes." "Oh, don't rush," she replied cheerfully, stepping onto the platform herself without even waiting for the command. "I have nowhere to rush to anyway. Well, except to sit here in solitary confinement for defending myself against 3 thugs who attacked me. But that's just a detail, right?" And again, that sarcasm, that complete disregard for any fear. The scanner hummed, flooding her with blue light, recording every scratch. And there weren't many, I can tell you. Broken bones in her right hand, a bruise on her left forearm, and a small wound above her eyebrow that had almost stopped bleeding. That was all. Meanwhile, the reports from the medical center painted a completely different picture of what she had done to those victims. Broken ribs, more than one, a shattered jaw, an open fracture of the radius, a severe concussion, a dislocated shoulder. The list looked like a butcher's inventory book. "So," Casey spoke up as the scanner made its 3rd pass, "are we going to discuss why 3 cadets, each of whom weighs 40 pounds more than I do, somehow look worse than the girl they cornered in the 12th training dome? Or are we just going to pretend that this is perfectly logical?" Lusk Zorn turned almost black with rage. "Be quiet. You'll talk to the investigator." "The investigator?" Sure, because I'm the main threat here. She began to examine her nails with feigned boredom. Listen, Sergeant, do you have any snacks here in the isolation ward? I missed dinner because of this attack, and now I'm just starving. I had to turn away so he wouldn't see my face. This person, who was facing expulsion or something much worse, was asking for chips. I had never seen such audacity. It was either a brilliant calculation or she was truly insane, or both. The scanner beeped, finishing its work. I looked at the biometric data and frowned. Her pulse was 72 beats per minute. 72! For humans, this is a state of complete calm. No stress hormones, no adrenaline rush. Her body behaved as if she had just woken up from a pleasant afternoon nap, not been arrested for fighting. Scan complete, I reported, trying to hide the surprise in my voice. The subject has minimal injuries, typical of self-defense. Endorphin levels are elevated, probably from the fight. No signs of intoxication or doping. Of course not, Casey chimed in. I'm just naturally fierce. It's my gift. Zorn grabbed her by the arm, clearly harder than necessary, and pulled her toward the cell. Go on in. The investigator will be here in an hour. She walked calmly, not even resisting. That same strange smile never left her face. When the energy barrier hummed, locking her in the 3-by-3-meter cell, she simply sat down on the bench, crossed her legs, and leaned back against the wall, as if waiting for a bus. Hey, she called after Zorn. When the investigator arrives, tell him I'd really appreciate some coffee. Black, no sugar. You have coffee, right? Please tell me you do. She didn't wait for an answer. She just shrugged, closed her eyes, and in a few minutes, believe it or not, passed out. She really fell asleep. I stood there staring at her, then looked back at my data pad. 3 Krellian cadets, all from distinguished military families, all with perfect records. And all 3 are now under sedation in the med bay, while tissue regenerators work at full capacity, trying to patch up what's left of them, and 1 human girl, by her species standards, barely a teenager, sleeping peacefully in her cell as if she had no worries in the universe. Honestly, I have a very bad feeling about how this investigation will go. A really bad feeling. Investigator Xell arrived exactly 53 minutes later. Quite quickly, considering that he had to travel across the entire territory from the command wing. He's a Valorian, all sharp angles and crystal clarity, with a reputation for getting confessions out of even the most hardened repeat offenders in 3-star systems. I saw him reduce a Taurian smuggler to tears in less than 10 minutes. This guy knew his job, knew it frighteningly well, and worst of all, he knew it. He burst into the observation room where I was monitoring the camera, his cloak making that characteristic rustling sound that usually didn't bode well for suspects. Status, he said, not even trying to be polite. The subject has been asleep for the last 40 minutes, sir, I reported. Vital signs are normal. There have been no attempts to communicate or breach the security system. Zell's faceted eyes flashed with something resembling irony. Sleeping? How presumptuous. Well, we'll see how long that lasts. He headed for the interrogation room, and I followed. Someone had to officially record all this. And to be honest, I was just curious to see how it would end. Call it unhealthy curiosity. The energy barrier dropped with a sharp hiss, and Casey instantly opened her eyes. No drowsiness, no confusion. She was just immediately alert. Another one of those disturbing human traits I had noticed at the academy. They go from deep sleep to full combat readiness in a fraction of a second, like predators that have sensed their prey. "Good evening, Cadet Stone," Zell said in that specific, harmonious voice that Valorians use to intimidate. It literally makes your bones vibrate, and you feel small and defenseless. "I'm Detective Zell. We need to discuss the incident in the 12th Training Dome." Casey sat down, stretched, and yawned. Seriously, she yawned right in his face. "Good evening, Inspector. Did you bring coffee?" I asked very politely. Zell's crystalline face somehow managed to convey extreme displeasure. "This is not a friendly gathering, Cadet. You are accused of assaulting 3 classmates. These are serious charges that will most likely result in immediate expulsion and criminal prosecution." "Uh-huh?" She leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees and her chin on her hands. "A quick question. Did those 3 classmates happen to mention why the hell they cornered me in an empty dome after lights out? Or are we just going to skip that part?" "You will answer my questions, not ask your own." "That's interesting," Casey continued, as if he hadn't said anything. "Because I was sure that self-defense was a universally accepted legal principle in every civilized community in the galaxy. But maybe humans are special? Maybe we have to allow ourselves to be turned into mincemeat just out of politeness." I watched through the window as Zell activated his datapad, opening the previous testimony. "According to witnesses, you provoked the conflict yourself by making offensive remarks about the Krillian combat doctrine during daytime tactical simulations." Casey laughed, and it wasn't a nervous or frightened laugh. She genuinely found it funny. "Offensive remarks? Is that what we call scientific discussion now? I said their siege tactics were outdated because they are. That's not an insult. It's a fact confirmed by 2 centuries of military history. These facts offended 3 cadets so much that they decided to find you for further discussion." Discussion, of course. Her gaze changed. Something cold and sharp appeared in her eyes. "Is that what they told you? That they wanted to discuss military theory in an empty dome at 10 o'clock at night? The 3 of them?" Zell leaned closer, trying to intimidate her with his height. "All I know is that 3 cadets are in the infirmary with terrible injuries, and you're sitting here with hardly a scratch. This doesn't look like self-defense, Cadet Stone. It looks like excessive force bordering on sadism." For the first time, Casey's smile disappeared completely. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, controlled, and somehow much more frightening than any scream. "Let me paint you a picture, Detective. I came to that dome because Cadet Garg sent me a message saying he wanted to apologize for getting heated during class. Professional ethics, you understand? Only when I got there, it wasn't just Garg. It was Garg, Rick, and Dorsch. 3 Krillian men, each weighing 90 kilos, against one girl weighing 58. She slowly, deliberately rose from her seat, and they began to surround me from different sides. A typical pack tactic, a classic of the genre. Garg began with his usual repertoire, ranting about how humans don't belong in real military institutions, how we are too soft, too weak, and how Earth should stay in its corner of space and not stick its nose out. While he was running his mouth, Rick began to move in from behind to cut off her escape route. I felt my breathing apparatus tighten. This picture did not match the official story that had been fed to our command. "And Dorsch," Casey continued, her voice so calm it sent chills down my spine. "Dorsch made a fatal mistake. He grabbed me by the shoulder, he dug his claws into my jumpsuit, drew blood, and hissed that now they would teach me to respect my elders. The hard way." Zell froze like a stone statue. "And you responded with lethal force." "I responded with necessary force," she snapped. "Dorsch grabbed me, so I broke free, and in the process, I broke his wrist and jaw, in that order. Rick lunged at me, so I just used his momentum to introduce his face to the deck, twice. And when he tried to get up, I twisted his elbow a little unnaturally. Garg, to his credit, hesitated. He saw what had happened to his buddies, but decided to swing anyway. Well, for that he got cracked ribs and a dislocated shoulder. Yes, purely for his efforts." She crossed her arms over her chest. "They wanted to teach me a lesson about human weakness. Instead, I taught them a lesson about human evolution. We are hunters, Mr. Investigator. We are predators who survived thanks to our endurance on a planet of death, where absolutely everything tried to devour our ancestors for millions of years. Don't corner a person and expect obedience. You'll get survival instinct multiplied by the ability to analyze the situation and an incredible amount of anger." A dead silence fell in the observation room. Zorn stared at the monitor, and his scales began to change colors I had never seen before. Even the patrol officers stopped to watch the show. Zell quickly regained his composure, but I could see the calculator working in his crystal eyes. "These are serious accusations, Cadet Stone. Do you have any evidence of this ambush?" Casey smiled again, this time predatory and deliberate. Well, that's up to you, Detective. Are there surveillance cameras in Dome 12? Because I'm pretty sure there are. And I'm just as sure that on the video you'll see 3 cadets lurking in wait and one very surprised girl walking into a trap. Oh, dear. Oh. Zell slowly, very slowly, reached for the communicator. Give me the recordings from Dome 12, the time period from 9:50 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. immediately. He looked at Casey again. She was sitting on the bench again with that devilish smile of hers, as if she had just won a game she had been leading from the start. You know what's funny? She said, as if we were just chatting about the weather. They really thought they could handle me. 3 trained Krillian fighters decided that one human girl was easy prey. That's what really surprises me. Don't they teach xenobiology here? Has no one read the reports on human military operations? We don't lose in hand-to-hand combat, investigator. We invented it. The recordings arrived 6 minutes later. Zell displayed them on the main screen for everyone to see. Honestly, he shouldn't have done that. Seriously, I wish I hadn't seen that. The time on the screen was 9:52 p.m. At first, the dome seemed empty. Just an obstacle course, climbing walls, beams. Then 3 figures appeared from the east entrance, Garg, Rick, and Dorsch. Their Krillian silhouettes were unmistakable, even in the dim light. And they didn't stand in the middle of the hall, waiting for the meeting. Oh, no. They spread out in a triangle, each sitting behind their own obstacle, creating a perfect firing zone near the main entrance. A textbook ambush. Well, Zorn muttered beside me, his scales turning a sickly gray. This looks bad. Bad was putting it mildly. We watched silently as Casey entered at 10:03 p.m. She walked in relaxed, clearly expecting a conversation. She looked around, saw Garg coming out from behind the wall, and raised her hand in greeting. She probably said, "Hello," although the sound in the domes was always terrible. Garg replied with something. Casey's face changed. Friendliness turned to complete incomprehension. Then Rick jumped out, blocking the exit, just as she had said. I saw the moment when it dawned on her. She instantly shifted her weight to the front of her feet, and her hands dropped into a fighting stance. Dorsch attacked from her blind spot fast, claws out. He grabbed her shoulder, and even on the grainy video, you could see the claws piercing the fabric. What happened next took exactly 4.3 seconds. I know this for sure because Xel replayed this moment 7 times, and I counted. Casey moved in a way I had never seen anyone move except professional fighters in Special Forces recordings. She didn't try to break free from Dorsch. She spun right into him. With her right hand she grabbed his wrist, and with her left she swung hard at his elbow. The joint bent backward with such force that it was visible even on the screen, and Dorsch opened his mouth in a scream. He didn't even have time to flinch before Casey lunged forward and slammed her forehead right into his jaw. People call it a headbutt. Dorsch collapsed like a broken servo. Rick rushed in to attack. Big mistake, just catastrophic. Casey dove under him, using his own weight. She knocked his supporting leg out from under him and slammed his face into the floor with such force that it felt like the camera shook. He tried to get up, stunned, but she was already on his back, twisting his arm in a way that arms definitely shouldn't be twisted. His scream must have been epic, because Garg froze for a couple of seconds. 2 seconds was enough for her. She let go of Rika, who was curled up, holding her broken arm, and turned back to Garg. The expression on her face made my second heart skip a beat. It wasn't rage, it wasn't even anger. Her face showed not anger, but rather a kind of resigned determination. You know, the kind of expression a person has when they're doing something unpleasant but necessary. Garg bared his claws, tried to get into a stance according to their textbook, and swung. The blow was powerful, but so predictable that Casey just barely shifted. She slipped under his arm and delivered 3 lightning-fast blows to his torso, right on target. She aimed for the gaps between their natural armor plates with such knowledge of anatomy that it made me uncomfortable. I heard Garg's ribs crack through the camera microphones. He backed away, trying to cover his injured side, but Casey just calmly walked up to him. She grabbed his outstretched arm and twisted it. His shoulder popped out of its socket with a crunch. It looked almost gentle until you remembered how much force it took to dislocate a Krellian shoulder. Garg fell. The entire fight, from the moment Dorsch grabbed her to Garg's fall, lasted exactly 21 seconds. 21 seconds to completely dismantle 3 trained cadets, who together weighed 100 pounds more than she did. Casey stood there for a moment, breathing heavily but evenly, and looked at the 3 of them with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. Then she simply stepped over Dorsch, walked over to the communication panel, calmly called the medics, and sat down on a bench to wait. The video ended. The room was filled with a silence you could cut with a knife. Zell brought up the medical reports on the second screen, and now that we had seen the fight itself, the numbers looked even worse. Dorsch's wrist wasn't just broken. It was shattered in 3 places, with open fractures, requiring urgent surgery. His jaw had 2 complete fractures and 4 cracks. Estimated recovery time, 6 weeks with regeneration. Rika had a terrible facial injury, a broken nose, a shattered eye socket, and a completely broken elbow that would have to be rebuilt, plus a 3rd-degree concussion. At least 2 months in the infirmary. Garga's injuries were almost surgical. 4 broken ribs, a cracked sternum, and a dislocated shoulder with torn ligaments. 7 weeks of treatment. She knew exactly where to hit, Zell said quietly, the arrogance gone from his voice. Every blow landed on the most vulnerable part of a Krellian's anatomy. Ribs, joints, jaw. This wasn't a random fight. It was a professional application of knowledge. I opened Casey's personal file on my tablet and scanned the list of subjects. She's the best in the group in xenobiology and comparative anatomy. Last semester, she got the highest score on the Krillian physiology exam. She also has master's certificates in 5 different human combat systems. Well, of course, how else could it be? Zorn muttered, looking as if he wanted to self-destruct in the nearest recycling bin. We arrested a person for excessive force, who is a walking encyclopedia on how to effectively tear any race in this academy to pieces. Zell returned to the observation window. Casey fell asleep again. Well, at least she closed her eyes. She was completely indifferent to the chaos she had caused here. Humans have a saying, I recalled the words of one of the human instructors at the briefing. Don't start a fight you can't finish. Those 3 cadets attacked a predator from the world of death who had spent his entire life learning how to finish fights. A predator, Zell repeated slowly. You call this 60-kilogram girl a predator? Did you see the same video I did? I pointed to the freeze frame on the screen. She didn't hesitate for a moment, didn't panic, didn't freeze. She assessed her 3 opponents, calculated the fastest way to neutralize them, and did so without a single unnecessary movement. Victims don't fight like that, Detective. That's the behavior of a dominant predator. Another guard, a silent Quellon named Talon, suddenly spoke up. My cousin served with the human Marines. He said watching humans fight was like watching physics professors calculate trajectories while everything around them was burning. Efficient, brutal, and downright terrifying. Zell stared at the medical reports for a long time, then at the video, then at the girl in the cell. I could see it finally clicking in his head. He had come here to break a dangerous criminal, and instead he found a cadet who had defended herself with textbook precision. Connect me to command, he said finally. His voice was completely broken. Connect me to them right now, and have someone start writing an official apology before things get even worse. How could it get any worse? Zorn wondered. Zell pointed to Casey's file. The contact person field lists Captain Morgan Stone. She's the commander of the human fleet ship Unchained, which is currently patrolling this sector. She's her father. We detained, interrogated, and effectively accused the captain's daughter of assault, even though she was the victim of a planned attack. That's worse. Commander Valtor arrived 12 minutes later. I've never seen the Valorians run like that before. He was followed by Dean Mira, the head of the academy. Her face expressed genuine horror. and bringing up the rear was Ambassador Wren, the official representative of the Galactic Council on Earth. His presence meant only one thing. The situation had gone from lousy to catastrophic in record time. "Tell me," Walter began without preamble, his voice vibrating the window, "that we didn't arrest a man for self-defense. Please tell me it's not what I think it is." Shell, to his credit, didn't try to wriggle out of it. He just turned on the video. We all watched it again. It didn't get any better even on the 8th viewing. "Holy emptiness," whispered Dean Mira. "They ambushed her. 3 against 1. It was planned." "This is no longer just a disciplinary issue," Walter snapped. "This is attempted assault and possibly attempted murder, depending on what was going through those idiots' heads." Ambassador Wren froze, all 6 of his eyes fixed on the monitor, not blinking. "How long has she been locked up?" I glanced at my chronometer. 2 hours and 17 minutes, sir." Only 2 hours, it would seem. But his translator conveyed such an intonation of disappointment that I felt uncomfortable, even though it was just electronics. "You've been holding Captain Morgan Stone's daughter in a cell for over 2 hours, while his warship is less than 4 light years from this station." The temperature in the observation room seemed to drop several degrees at once. Commander Walter began searching quickly through his tablet, and his face began to change color, a sure sign that he was on the verge of hysterics. Captain Stone commanded the human fleet during the siege of Braxton 4. His ship held off the Krellian fleet, which outnumbered them 3-1 for 14 hours. 14 hours, guys. The Krillians lost 42 ships. The Unbroken suffered a 73% loss of crew, but they continued to fight. "Humans don't give up," Ambassador Wren added quietly. "It's not just some cultural quirk for them. It's an instinct of the entire species. Cornering them, threatening them, or their families is not the path to submission. It is the path to total escalation." Meanwhile, Dean Mira feverishly leafed through the personal files of the 3 heroes. "Yes, wonderful. Garg is Admiral Malik's nephew. Rika's father is a member of the Krellian High Command. The Dorsch family owns a controlling stake in the Krellian military shipyards." "Just perfect," Walter squeezed out with such sarcasm that you could spread it on bread. "So we have 3 cadets with connections who attacked the daughter of a war hero, and we arrested the victim in response. Does anyone have any good news? Even one piece?" Everyone was silent. "Well, she was very polite," I chimed in. "She asked for coffee." 5 pairs of eyes stared at me. "She what?" Ambassador Wren repeated. "She asked for coffee black, no sugar. She was very calm the whole time, even a little too calm, to be honest." Wren laughed bitterly. "Of course she's calm. She knows how this will end. People are different, but they're certainly not stupid. She protected herself. She knows the video will exonerate her, and she knows her father's ship will be here faster than we can write up all the reports if he decides we violated his daughter's rights." Walter turned sharply to Zell. "What did you say to her during the interrogation? Please tell me you didn't threaten her with expulsion or court." Zell's crystal-clear eyes began to search for a corner to hide in. "Well, I could have mentioned both. Maybe I pressed a little on the legal consequences." "Brilliant. Just incredible." Walter covered his face with his hands, a universal gesture of despair. "So, we arrested her, kept her under lock and key, denied her basic refreshments, and threatened her with prison for fighting off 3 burly men. Did I miss anything?" "It seems so, sir," Xel muttered. Dean Mira was already typing something. "I opened the Academy's charter, Article 47. Clause B clearly states that a cadet has the right to self-defense using proportional force. Considering the number of attackers and their weight, her actions were a clear, proportionate response." "Proportionate," Zorn grumbled. "She sent them to the infirmary for 2 months." "The 3 of them attacked her in a secluded place," Ambassador Wren cut in harshly. "By Galactic Council standards, she had every right to use even lethal force. Krellian tactics are designed to isolate the victim. She recognized the threat and reacted. The fact that they survived is proof of her restraint, not cruelty." You know, I didn't even think about that. Casey could have killed him. People know every pain point of every race because they study xenobiology like we study poetry. She just decided to turn them off rather than wipe them out. Valtor activated the communication system. Give me a direct line to the unrestrained priority diplomatic channel. Sir, Mira asked cautiously, what exactly are you going to say to Captain Stone? The truth, Dean. I'll tell him the truth, apologize profusely, and hope that their charter includes a clause about accepting apologies from dim-witted administrators who locked up his daughter for refusing to be a victim. He's going to be very angry, Ambassador Wren remarked. Oh, yes, very much so. That's why we're releasing her immediately, dropping all charges, sending those 3 Krillianians to court-martial, and offering Cadet Stone whatever compensation she wants for this circus. Zell cleared his throat. Maybe someone should go tell her she's free? We all looked through the glass. Casey was still sleeping peacefully on the bench, probably dreaming about coffee or new ways to break people's limbs. I'll go, I said, surprising myself with my boldness. I was the most polite to her. Maybe she won't kill me. Doubtful, Zorn said skeptically, but good luck. I entered the cell, trying to show with my whole appearance how sorry I was, although I'm not sure people understand Krillian body language. As soon as the barrier disappeared, Casey opened her eyes. Again, that same instant readiness. She sat up and smiled slightly. Let me guess, she said, beating me to it. Someone watched the video, realized I wasn't lying, and now you're all running around with soap up your asses so you don't start an intergalactic conflict? All I could manage to say was, well, in short, yes, you're absolutely right. Cadet Stone, on behalf of the entire Galactic Military Academy, I sincerely apologize for your detention. All charges have been dropped. You are free to go, I said, delivering the official part. She stood up and stretched so hard that her joints cracked with a satisfied sound. Apology accepted. Did someone finally think to whisper to Commander Valtor that my old man's ship was somewhere nearby? Because I thought that would speed up the process considerably. Now your complete calm seems much more logical, I admitted. You knew that sooner or later we would figure everything out. Of course I knew. I have video evidence and 3 idiots who decided to attack the daughter of a combat officer. This story could only end this way from the very beginning. She walked past me to the exit, but then paused. Although I'm still angry with you about that coffee situation, it was just rude. And she was right about that, no doubt about it. We walked down the detention center hallway passing Zorn, who looked like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Casey waved cheerfully at him. No offense, Sergeant. You were just doing your job. Badly, of course, but that's how it is. Sarcasm accompanied her like a personal aura. Walter was waiting for her at the main security office, along with Dean Mira and Ambassador Wren. The commander stood up to his full Valorian height and began his prepared speech. Cadet Stone, I cannot find the words to describe how deeply I regret this miscarriage of justice. Today, the Academy has failed you, and I take full responsibility. Cool, Casey said. Can I have that in writing for my file? And what about the 3 who actually attacked? Dean Mira stepped forward. They have been referred to the disciplinary committee. While the investigation is ongoing, they face expulsion, criminal charges for assault, and, quite possibly, lawsuits from you and the Academy. Their families have been notified. Good. Casey's face hardened slightly. Because I want everyone to understand clearly. I will not allow myself to be used as a guinea pig for someone's theories about human weakness. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us for millions of years. We are not weak. We are not soft. And we certainly don't give up without a fight. Message received, Valter replied quietly. Is there anything we can do to make up for tonight? Casey pretended to think. Coffee would be very welcome, and perhaps the Academy's self-defense rules should be updated, so that cadets know they have the right to defend themselves and won't be thrown in jail for it. That seems like useful information. Both points will be addressed immediately, Mira promised. Then Ambassador Wren spoke, and his words, thanks to the translator, sounded very weighty. Cadet Stone, I apologize on behalf of the Galactic Council. Your composure today is a testament to your strength of character. Composure? Casey was confused for a moment. Then her eyes widened with understanding. Oh, you mean the fact that I didn't kill them? Well, yes, that was intentional. Killing my classmates over some stupid ambush would have meant so much paperwork afterward. It's much easier to just break a couple of bones. She said it so casually, as if refusing to kill was just a matter of bureaucratic convenience. Her words sent a chill through my nervous system. She did get her coffee, 3 whole cups, which she drank while filling out the official statement. She signed the documents with a flourish, finished her last coffee, and stood up. Cadet Stone, I called after her at the door. Can I ask you a question? Why weren't you afraid? Even a little. You were outnumbered, you were arrested, threatened. Anyone in your place would have felt stress. Casey thought seriously about her answer. I grew up on Earth. I learned to swim in oceans full of sharks. I went into forests where bears and mountain lions live. On my planet, there is weather that wipes out cities and earthquakes that change continents, and 3 guys with bad manners and 0 tactical planning. She shrugged. That's not even on my list of threats. She left, and we stood there trying to digest what we had heard. So, Zorn finally summed up, we locked up a predator from the world of death for successfully fighting off an ambush, threatened her with a lawsuit despite all the evidence, and she just got angry about coffee. Seems about right. Zell reviewed the video again, pausing on Casey's last blow. We're very lucky she chose restraint. Looking at it now, she could have crippled them for life with just a little more effort. Humans occupy their place in the galaxy not because they are the strongest or the most technologically advanced, Ambassador Wren said as he gathered his things. They are here because they are the most adaptable, the most stubborn, and the most capable of controlled violence. They can be your best allies or your worst enemies. It all depends on how you treat them. He paused in the doorway. Those 3 learned that lesson the hard way today. Hopefully, the rest of the academy will learn it without such demonstrations. When everyone left, I remained alone in the office, staring at the empty camera on the monitor. Somewhere out there, Casey Stone was probably already sleeping peacefully in her dorm room, oblivious to the chaos she had left behind. 3 influential families were in a panic. The disciplinary committee was preparing for weeks of hearings. The command was trying to cover up a diplomatic scandal. And the person who started it all? She just wanted her coffee. I opened the incident report one last time and added a note of my own. Never corner people. They don't give up. They recalculate, adapt, and win. Every time. Lesson learned.